Welcome to another episode of the Baker Punk Podcast. How you going? I'm Sean the Baker, and this is episode number 52. What do you think about that for the regular listeners? That's our new intro. Watto's been busy. As I said, we're going to tidy up this podcast a little bit. So there'll be a little bit, especially for the shows that I do with Watto, my co-host. Just some little, what they call section detailed little intros. So he's been a busy lad today. But today I'll catch up with Benny from The Boy Detective. We talk about their album Art Theft, and Benny's just, it's just one of those guys that you talk to and you just feel like you're taken away in your own little world. Just the way he speaks. I wish I could speak like that instead of my stutter or my lisp. He's such a legend. It's such an informative podcast, this episode. And Benny has said that I'm allowed to play some songs. So we're going to kick it off with their first song off their album Art Theft that came out on the 1st of January. It's my Scar album of the year so far. This song's called, I'm not even going to be able to pronounce it. Benny's going to laugh at me, so I'm just going to make it up. It's called Some Dark and Nora Wearing Dexter with a Boner. Oh, shit. Here on the Baker's Punk Podcast.
The most important thing to remember is that this is your time. Make the best use of it. Do not dwell on intruding thoughts. Do not think about things that have to be done, things you should have done. Put them all aside for about 20 minutes. All cares and worries aside. This is your time.
When I met you, I was 7 years into a 5-year bad luck streak. I was looking like an idiot, and you were the most beautiful girl that I'd ever seen. Threw caution to the wind, asked myself what's the worst thing that could have been. 'Cause even if you laughed at me, I'd spend the rest of my days remembering your smile. There are things in my life I'll never understand, and number one is how you ever gave me a chance, and number two is freshman economics. It's the only class I ever got lesson to be in. It's why people vote against their best interests. It's what my kids like about YouTube idiots. Go back to number one, 'cause seriously, it's not just your looks, you're just so much smarter than me too. Maybe it's my confidence.
Welcome to another episode of the Baker's Punk Podcast. How you going? I'm Sean the Baker, and this is episode number 52. And today I have Benny from The Boy Detective. Benny, welcome to the Baker's Punk Podcast.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. So glad across the pond, as they say, right?
Oh, well, it's a bit further than that. It's what, 12 hours? We've just discussed it. It's 12
No
hours.
big deal, right? Just a quick swim.
Yeah, it's easy, mate. It's easy. It's only 7 a.m. there, 7 p.m. here. We're sweet. I've got my rum, and I've got my rum, and you've got your coffee. We're sweet.
It'd be a little scary if it was the opposite. I think
It would be.
point.
Well, I don't know what's in your cup. I can see what's in mine, so we're
Got
all
my
safe.
Scott cups.
Yeah.
We got some nice brown beans going on in this one. So
Hey, Benny, we need a location. Where are you in the world?
I am in Ida, Michigan, which if you pull up the mitt just down here at the bottom.
Oh yeah,
Michigan
yep.
too.
Nice and cold. Nice and cold in the winter. I know. I've been there.
Yeah, she could get a little chilly. She can get a
does.
little chilly here
It
in
does.
Michigan for sure.
It does. And what's the weather doing today?
Today we have a humid 70. I think it's going to get a little hotter today. I was hoping to get in the pool, but I'm a funeral director, so I don't know if that my day will let me do that. But we'll see.
Why?
We'll see.
Have you got a pool in the backyard?
I do
Does that-
for my
does
kid.
Does that freeze over in winter and then you skate on it?
I wish. No, we're not going to do that. We're not. Well, see, our winters honestly have gotten less cold
I like it.
than we're used to.
Yeah,
It's whatever you want to call it, but
yeah,
yeah, we have a lot more milder winters than we used to. I'm sure we'll get hit here pretty soon, but
yeah,
I remember a lot more like snow when I was a kid than
yeah.
my
Okay.
kids are dealing with now. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Ben, I want to start off with what were you listening to as a kid, and when did you discover punk or this genre of music, and what was it?
oh, absolutely. So I'll just go in and say I'm a punk rocker by trade at all.
Yeah.
Ska was a little bit more. It took me a little longer to figure out ska, but I started listening to what my parents listened to. Of course, I'm sure everybody was the same way. So my parents were, or my dad was really big into Pink Floyd or the Beach Boys. Sorry about the dogs.
That's right.
Um,
I've got a cat right here.
Beach Boys, but so I remember listening to like those amazing harmonies by Beach Boys. Be like, man, that's wild. That's awesome to do. But I was like, okay, it's a little bit boring, and a little um too happy at times.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. Yep.
But so then I was listening to Pink Floyd. He had the Wall, and he had
Dog's not happy.
they're fighting over each other. Um he had the Wall and Dark Side of the Moon, and I
Oh, okay.
remember listening. And the Wall for me hit harder when I was younger. Just made more sense with education and all that jazz. So those were like, and then my mom was really big into like ABBA and like Shania Twain and stuff.
Oh,
So
okay.
we had to
Yeah.
listen to that too. The Judds,
Yeah.
Um, so we were kind of listening to both that stuff. But then I had two older brothers, just four of us, and I'm identical twin at the bottom here, but I'm the baby of the family. But I remember when he got old enough to start listening to stuff his friends were giving him, we weren't allowed to have risque music right in
Uh,
the house. So
oh,
he would
okay.
burn us like mixed CDs of these albums he would get, and he would give it to us after he'd listened to it. So like I remember a couple of the biggest albums that really hit me was of course Dookie, which is kind of, it's hard to say because it's like that's like the stereotypical, like, but it is like it's
It
so good
is.
to
It
this
is.
day. It
It is.
is
It's
still.
still that good. It is.
How did they do that at that young? You
I don't
wonder.
know. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it makes me mad because it's like some of these bands, they come up with their opus at like 19, 20 years old, and I'm 36 and still trying to figure figure it out. Um, but yeah, so I remember Dookie was a big one.
yeah.
Dude Ranch and Enema of the State were big ones for me. I remember my brother giving me "Hooray for the Boobies." That was an interesting
Mm,
bloodhound gang, being from a very
yep.
constricted family here. And then he was really big into ICP. So of course we had all the Joker cards, the riddle boxes, and the
Yep.
yeah, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so and I guess that's Michigan, right? You got to give your credit where credit's due here in
That's
Detroit.
it. That's it. That's it.
But so he would kind of get us into things. But what I found with my older brother was he would give us like the middle of stuff. So like
Uh,
when I first got Blink 182, it was Enema of the State. So Dude Ranch came a little later. So when I was kind of getting into my own, growing up in my teens, I remember like people would be like, "Oh, so you pretty much like Operation Ivy," and I'm like, I have no idea who Operation. It's like I know who Rancid is,
yep.
because of course one of the other big albums that I got, which really defined my music style, was Out Came the Wolves. I still think
Oh,
that album holds up
definitely.
to the top 10 or 15 of my all-time albums.
Yeah, you sound like me, eh? Dude, Dookie,
Oh,
Rancid,
well,
Alkaline
well,
Wolf. Yeah.
and then you have some friends that throw you into like the emo world, right? Indie
Yep.
world. So like I remember still one of the top 15 albums of mine is Something to Write Home About by the Get Up Kids. That's another one that
Yep.
like really struck me. Yet again, 19-year-olds or 17 or whatever they were writing their best album. And then you'd go into like Dashboard Confessional and then be like, oh, oh, there's the promise ring, and then you go into that like hole for a while, and then you come back out and you're like, okay, now I gotta get back in my punk realm. Because then my older brother Chris also gave us one of his big favorite bands was NoFX. So
Yep.
I love everything about Fat Mike. So I remember listening to, I think the big album that he gave us was Ribbed, and then he skipped a couple, and then we got Two Hebes and that one, and then
White Trash.
So,
Yep.
yeah, White Trash, Two Hebes, and a Bean.
Yep.
And so we would kind of like he would give us like the middle stuff of these bands. So when I grew up, I had to do my own like little history of, okay, if you like Rancid, you gotta go back as far as Operation Ivy to realize like, oh, that's where he came from, and that's where the bassist came from, but already like Rancid was pseudo ska too. Out Came the Wolves specifically was very ska related, and No Effects have always added ska things to their to their beats and to the way that Fat Mike plays. Which, to be honest with you, I think some of the greatest bassists of all time are in ska bands. Because man, no, you can't be a good ska band without a good bassist.
No, definitely not. No, you can't.
So and then then the brothers started a band. So me, Nick, my twin, and then my older brother Chris, who gave us all this music, started a band. But he really wanted to do, because at the time he was so big into the Misfits, so he wanted to do a horror punk band. So we formed a band called the Spaghetti Zombies.
The Spaghetti Zombies?
The Spaghetti Zombies. It's an awesome name, wonderful play. But the problem was we were 10 years behind The Walking Dead coming out. So in my small community, it was either country or metal. So punk wasn't very. We had some punk bands, but that's not what the kids liked at the time. It was very metal or country-esque, which I live in the country, so it's going to be country no matter what. So we did that, and I loved it. But I remember he's like, okay, now you got to learn how to sing like Danzig, and I was like, okay, nobody can sing like Danzig. Danzig is his own. Like he's. You can hear like Elvis Presley. Maybe he's the only person that is somewhat like Danzig, or vice versa, right? So like I remember doing that, and we had a Detroit horror punk band called Nuke and Living Dead at the time, and he actually has a really cool voice, Nuke. But like, so I started as a horror punk band.
Wow.
But we were very Misfits, Ramones, like very 4/4 basic. We weren't doing solos or anything like that. We were just there, and you can listen to that stuff if you go to Kapal's Bandcamp. You can listen to the old album.
I'm gonna look that
so
up.
that band was called Kapal. We have a couple albums on there actually. During Halloween, you're gonna love it because we re-recorded one of our first albums when we were 17 called One More Empty Grave, which you'll be able to hear not only the Spaghetti Zombie version, but then the Kapal version. So I joined Kapal, and then during Spaghetti Zombies, we were playing with a band called The Machine Always Wins, which was like a local hardcore band. And the guitarist at the time, who is now my guitarist, Nick Good, we would play adjacent with them because we were the local band. So we always played the same shows together. But it was funny because when we first met, Nick and his brother were kind of aggressive people. Like they didn't really take in too kind to the horror punks because they looked at us like we're weird, a bunch of weirdos singing about vampires and zombies and ghouls and goblins. So they had their own crew called the Cemetery Crew, which they got their own hoodies and would go to hotels. Make a mess and all that jazz. And then we were in Spaghetti Zombies, so we had our own called the Cemetery Crew, but we didn't mean to do it to cause issues. We just wanted something for the fans to be a part of. And so they took it as like we were like making fun of their crew. So they literally formed a MySpace back in the day. This is dating ourselves. Where they were making fun of local bands. So that was like their way of like hiding aggression. And so they had this guy named Straight Edge Dave who would like make mockeries of all the bands. And anyway, so I found out later in life, Straight Edge Dave was my friend Nick now. because at the time I thought, man,
Ah,
he's never gonna like us.
yeah,
But he was in a band called Cardinals, and they needed a singer. He wanted to step away and be just the guitarist, backup vocalist. So they needed a singer. So I remember like being asked if I wanted to do a tryout, which God, I went to his house in his bedroom, and he made me sing 2 or 3 songs. And
in
I
his
actually
bedroom.
remember yeah. And well, what's funny, because I just mentioned this to another podcast, one of the songs we sang, my first song that I sang that I think I was in the band for, was A Dreadful Collection of Memoranda, which ended up being on Art Theft. So that song
Yep.
is literally 20 years old, that
Wow.
I finally got Nick to like, dude, let's put this down. It's too good of a song to not. And then D Block, the singer at the end, is Nick's brother. So he's in
Okay.
a
Yep.
hardcore band in Detroit called D Block. Um, so he's kind of continued his hardcore journey. And then Nick was always big into pop punk. Nick is very eclectic, but very much so with old school hardcore and punk. So he would go like, so if I went the Ramones route, he would go like the Descendants Minor Threat route.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, yeah.
he would go on these hardcore tangents, and I'd go on these just pop punk, punk, old school punk for me, like the Clash, Ramones, Sex Pistols. Like that was me.
Yeah.
That's what I like to listen to. And then so we would meet in the middle. So like one of his favorite bands is Newfound Glory, which Newfound Glory rules. Like Sticks and
Oh,
Stones is yet again one of the top 15 albums of all time.
it have to be.
And and what we both loved about it was how Newfound slowly incorporates hardcore into all their stuff, and with the gang chants and the heavy
Yep.
guitars. But
Yep.
then you got the singer who's like, he's got this cute higher voice that
He
just kind of
has.
works.
Yeah.
But they're very like, just love the breakdowns for no reason. So if you listen to Art Theft, which we'll get into,
We
this is why
definitely
I'm
will.
kind of, but Nick taught me like, okay, if you're gonna like Rancid, you got to go back to Operation Ivy. If
Yep.
you're gonna like Dashboard Confessional, you got to go do, what was his old band, Chris Caraba's with the plane.
Oh,
Anyways, they'll come to me.
yeah,
But you
yeah.
got to, like, if you want to listen to these songs, you really got to understand where it's coming from, right?
Yeah.
Because like Chris gave us Cool to Be You Descendants album,
Yep.
and I really love that. But I didn't know Milo Goes to College or anything like that. Like I didn't understand like, oh, they were like more of like hardcore, very fast punk,
Yeah.
whereas like I was listening to Cool to Be You, which was very melodic, Descendants. So like I would go back and I'd listen to it and then like catch up, and I'm like, oh, this makes so much more sense now than just, this is the album, why do I like this album? So he would teach me all these like old 90, early 90 or early to late 90s stuff and early 2000 stuff that I missed when my brother was just giving me these random CDs.
Yeah. Yep.
So he like really opened my mind. So it's like, it's funny now because like Nick Good, my guitarist tonight, now are like these punk gurus when it comes to like history and where these bands came from and who they are. So when we're talking like in public, they're like, why do you know so much?
Yeah. See,
But I think it's like any, oh, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. No, that's why I love talking to guys like yourself, because sometimes you go different ways, and for me, I love that, because it's like I start going, because I'm the same. I love to know as much about a band as I can, and you can't always find everything, and you're just going, and you're making reasons for why and the way you sing it and stuff like that, and for me, it's just like, wow, it's
Where you're peeking
fantastic.
behind the curtains and you're seeing like,
Yep.
okay, this is how his voice has gone from this to this, or
Yep.
why they're going this route. One of the big things that Nick and I started the Boy Detective, it was coming off of a band called Come On, which you can also look on at Bandcamp. If you want to know the true beginnings of the Boy Detective, listen to Come On,
Yep.
with an exclamation mark. And we had an album that was called Five, and it was like the 1, 2, 3, 4 slash through it, 5. And so we were kind of walking away from Come On, and we wanted to start just a recording band. We weren't planning on playing any shows. We weren't planning on having more than a couple fun little EPs, because that was the other thing. Nick and I have always liked doing the smaller stuff. Like if you realize like Dorcas is 6 songs, Band is 7, Art Theft is 7.
Yep.
Because our idea is like, let's be honest, it's a lot easier to do it that way because you got 7 good hits. You don't have to add the filler, blah,
The
blah,
fillers.
blah.
Yep.
But the other thing is like with the world being the way it is, like I say nobody collectively, you understand there are people that deep dive like us. But most of the people don't listen to a full album anymore. They listen to the number 1 song or the most played song, which is really strange because if you look at how Spotify and all them work, it's not necessarily your biggest song that ends up on top.
No.
So that has been a whole experience. Like the whole idea that like you as a musician can't think about writing an album of its time, because I loved concept albums. Like for me, a band that is willing to put in, because that's the problem, right? We've seen it. And I grew up with the comps and splits. And I remember I loved a lot of those a lot more than albums, because in my opinion, when you're writing 3 to 5 to maybe even 7 songs in our case, you're writing you got to pick good ones. You know what I mean? Like you have no time for filler.
Remember when we stole those bikes, riding go-karts through the night, bombing parking garages and throwing watermelons off the road. We disappeared for a couple days, heading north with no destination, just to see how far that we could go. There's something great about growing up, getting busy, losing touch with everything I thought I was. We used to see each other every day, spend our nights trying to get away, but all I ever wished now is that I stayed. Burning the candle on Nintendo nights, caffeine highs and bloodshot eyes, partying on the porch with 40 ounces melting on the stove, fire extinguishers and broken glass, never knowing how long it lasts, so far past the point of no return, but we'll sleep when we're dead. There's something great about growing up, getting busy, losing touch with everything I thought I was. We used to see each other every day, spend our nights trying to get away, but all I ever wished I was that I stayed. There's something great about growing up, getting busy, losing touch with everything I thought I was. We used to see each other every day, spend our nights trying to get away, but all I ever wished now is that I stayed. There's something great about growing up, getting busy, losing touch with everything I thought I was. We used to see each other every day, spend our nights trying to get away, but all I ever wished now is that I stayed.
No.
And
No.
so I remember the to this day, the Rancid No Effects split. I loved that. Oh my God, I loved
Did
that
you think
so
that No Effects did a better job of Rancids than Rancid did No Effects?
I think I'm going to be honest with you. I think they both did a wonderful job.
Okay.
They
Yeah,
both did an absolutely wonderful job. I loved Radio so much, the No Effects version,
Yeah,
the
it's pretty
ska
good.
one, but I also loved it, the
The
Rancid. I was like, but I loved hearing Tim and Lars do Fat Mike and vice versa. Like I liked to hear that. And for me, like those were the godfathers at the time of
Yeah.
that kind of style. So like I just always loved that. Alkaline did it with Hot Water Music, and they did a wonderful job. And I remember the comps, right? The Misfits, the ska, and all the. And I was talking to Nick about this, and I talked about this at the podcast. Do you remember the old street teams? Did you guys have that? So we would go to these big shows. So that
Yeah.
you go see like Jimmy Eat World or whatever, and you'd
Yeah,
come
yeah.
out of the show in Detroit, and there'd be a bunch of kids, they're teenagers, and they'd have a bunch of flyers in these compilation CDs, and they just hand them to you.
Yep.
I'm like, you don't see that.
And I have heard about that before, but we didn't really have it here in Australia. The only time that I ever got given a sample CD was when I went saw Strung Out, playing with friends of Rom in a little town called Toowoomba. Well, it's a
Okay.
city. And I walked in, this guy's giving me a CD. I'm like going, oh, what for? And he goes, oh, no, we just handed them out. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, okay. You know, it was, for me, it was like, what's going on?
It's like Christmas.
Yeah,
It's
but
like-
but I had heard about street teams. I've heard, but we'd never
Yeah.
really seen them here.
And it was sad because at the time I remember being annoyed because you're like, you just got out of a show and you're like, I just want to go home. I'm
Yeah.
done. I've been in the front of the pit.
Yeah.
But like I would listen to those CDs all the way home from Detroit.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time they were garbage, to be completely frank with you.
Yeah.
There were some kids like, hey, we're gonna get this EP, but hey, it was a way to get your music to 30 people, and
Yeah.
like for being a kid, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
But that's a thing too, right? You're going from, I remember burning CDs to now nobody has cassettes anymore or CDs anymore. They want
Yeah.
cassettes or they want records,
Yeah.
which is wild. But it's the way it is.
It's so backwards, isn't it? It's so backwards.
Well, it is. Well, and I'm excited because
It
like
is.
we're gonna have Art Theft and Band released as a record.
Yeah,
here.
wicked. Yeah,
So
nice.
finally.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I've never had a record
yeah.
like released ever. I had
Yeah.
CDs pressed and all that, but I've never had a record. So I'm like, man,
Wow.
like we're the big leagues now.
You're the
baby.
big boys now.
Which is funny because like that was the other thing too. So like when we started as this recording project,
Yeah,
we started as a very pop punk. If you listen to Dorcas, it's very pop punk.
okay.
And Nick at the end was like, hey, how would you feel about if we started doing some like ska, because he always wanted to be in a ska punk band.
Yeah,
And I said, Nick, Suicide Machine's Definition by Destruction and Battle Hymns for me are in that top 15. So I'm cool with that. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. As long as it's kind of leaning a little more towards the hardcore side, I
Yeah.
do not care.
Yeah.
So I used to think you were cute, I think is the song. It's the last song on Dorcas, is the first, if you really want to incorporate, that's our first like ska punk song that we added the upstrokes and all that. So then we get done with that, and I remember we were writing some newer stuff, and Nick said, how do you feel about trying to get a band member, like a drummer, and we could just be a 3-piece? And like, oh, that would be rad, because when we started, I did bass. So I did bass on Dorcas.
Yep.
And I realized I am not a good bassist because I could not play a lot
There's
of
only
that
4
stuff.
strings, you know, you just got to
Yeah,
pluck.
it was-
Does
oh,
it matter?
Well, not only that, but it was like, I gotta walk the whole time. How am I supposed to sing and walk? That's not gonna happen. Who do you think I am? So I remember like doing I Used to Think You Were Cute, and if I'm a Metro or whatever Nick names his songs.
You name the songs, I just laugh and go,
You-
I didn't know how to pronounce some of that shit.
Yeah, you found Metro. I don't know. It's anyway, it's a whole thing. But so I remember like writing that and be like, oh gosh, okay, all right, we'll keep writing this and I'll whatever deal with this bass. But we found a drummer.
Yep.
and he was a guitarist by trade, and he really wanted to play drums. So he's like, this gives me an opportunity to be a drummer, to figure out drums. And he did a wonderful job. He played with us until after band, and then he had some family and life issues, and he had to deal with that, and like all of us do.
Yeah.
So we got the drummer, and then of course Nick's like, well, if we got a drummer, we gotta get horns.
It's just getting bigger, isn't it?
It's well, yeah. Then it's like my brain is going, okay, we are starting a ska punk band, which is awesome, wonderful, cool.
Yep.
Add
We
it to my
can do this. We can do this.
Well, and I think like absolutely, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Not knowing how loving and accepting the ska punk community is. I'm gonna be wild. Like I've never experienced people who care as much about a specific genre as those people. And they're wonderful.
I've heard that before,
especially
in the podcast,
in Detroit. They are, man, they will come in all you. I've never had somebody drive 2 hours to a show to see me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I know that's nothing compared to a lot of people who drive to shows, but like for me, like when I was playing shows, it was all your friends, like who felt obligated. Like, okay, I'm gonna come to your show because I guess I just got something to do, right?
Yeah.
But so we get we actually put out a Craigslist for horns. And it was cool because we got a pair that wanted to do it. They always wanted to be in a band, but couldn't find the right band. And then we couldn't ever find horns. So it just kind of happened. And they were best friends. So they came in, Seth and Jared, and they still are in the band today. Our sax player and our trombone, and they're wonderful. They're actual musicians. So they would play with like Ann Arbor orchestras and stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they're both brilliant musicians. So I was in a band finally, and like I love my brothers, but we were just off what we hear. So it was all tabs, and it was all like, we're gonna do this, and this is how we're gonna sing, because why not? Yep. Whereas like this band, they're starting to be like, okay, we're gonna be in G flat minor and concert G and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting there like, I have no idea what they're. Thank God I am not playing bass because that was a thing. So it got to the point where we were writing band. And I was like, Nick, I can't do this. And I was struggling with alcoholism at the time. I'm sober now. I've been sober for 3 years.
Oh, congratulations.
But I was really struggling at the time because we were dealing with COVID. And I'm a funeral director, and a lot of the families were just, I'm going to be honest, really mean to my dad and I because they just couldn't understand the rules, and they were dealing with anger.
I can imagine you, because the rules would have been so hard on you. Because you're probably only allowed 2 people, 10 people. None.
Yeah, it was like 10 people. Well, and the thing was, and I'm sure you knew this because of our country at the time, our commander in chief was saying silly things like, you can drink bleach and it doesn't exist and the numbers aren't right. And so my community, and I love my community, but they're very conservative Republicans. They really are. Mm-hmm. So anything they were being told, they believed. So a lot of people didn't believe in it, even if their family member died from it.
Yeah,
they would be like, oh, this doesn't exist, and I don't understand why you're not letting us do this. And then some of my colleagues who were funeral directors were allowing people to go against the rules. So it was a whole conundrum of stuff. So
and were the fines big there? Were there big fines if you were caught doing the wrong thing?
Oh, here was the problem. The local police literally told us, like, we're not going to shut you down. We're not going to come in and like deal with it. But the problem was, I come from very old school values and ethics where it's like, just because you can rob a bank and get away with it doesn't mean you rob a bank. You know what I mean? And for Dad and I, we believe in science. So for us, it was like, I don't want to get somebody sick. Like, I'm literally, there's somebody who died in the casket right now. And like, we don't know if the family still has it or not at that point. Like, we didn't have the science or education at that time. So it was like, I'm going to try to keep people safe. And like, I was getting yelled at for keeping people safe. That was what was confusing. And then what was also confusing, the human side of it, was people don't look at funeral directors as actual people. Oh. So I have kids too. Yeah. I have a wife and a beautiful wife, my high school sweetheart I'm married, and my 2 beautiful children. So I'm coming home. And then also we're a family funeral home. So if we all get sick, we can't do what we do. No. So it was like this whole nonsense. But yeah. So I was struggling. So I remember Nick was like, hey, how would you feel about getting a bassist? And I'm like, Nick, I would love that more than anything. I was a lead singer before, and I like just going wild. I like sweating in the pit with people and jamming. So I was like, this works great for me. So that's when this transition from bass to me lead singer was after we wrote Band. So then we decided our good friend who would come to shows, Rhiannon, was another sax player, and she was like, hey, and we were like, we should just ask her to play. If she's coming to all of our shows anyways, you might as well just stick around that.
Yep.
So then we got her, and then the bassist we had some issues with his life, and his dad was going through some medical issues, so he had to leave. So we got Ricky in, who's our bassist now. Who's no offense to Alex. Alex is wonderful, but Ricky is a bass player.
Yeah.
And then our drummer Zach, who took over for our old drummer, and he's just a punk wild kid. So we're finally hitting at all cylinders right now. So this is the precursor to Art Theft.
Yep.
So Art Theft was when all these big changes were being made, and I love all of these albums. Like there is parts of Dorcas to me. I wish, and we will. I'm gonna tell you this, and Nick probably won't like me because Nick doesn't like re-recording stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We need to re-record Dorcas with this new punk ska flair. But I love Dorcas. Dorcas was fun. But Band was when we started doing. But Band has, as of now, Band has MIDI horns, because we didn't have the horns fully incorporated for Band. Art Theft is the full with horns, with actual live horns and all that jazz. we have been just amazed with the 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 coming back of what people like about this. Like, we're not millions or billions or 100,000 listens or anything like that. But for us, like for a local ska punk band, being able to play with Jay Navarro and the Traders every week, and we're playing with Save Ferris at the end of the week, and we're playing with Mustard Plug, and
Yeah. Wow.
we're getting
Yeah.
asked to go on a 2-day thing with Five Iron Frenzy, and it's funny because it's like we're laughing about it. We seem, because of the way our music is and because of who we are, and I think the older generation of ska, third wave, really likes what they're hearing with us.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
funny because we're not playing a lot with the younger wave, the new tone
Yeah.
bands,
Yeah. Yep.
but for some reason we're really getting in with these wiser, which is wonderful because let's like oh my gosh, we're playing with these bands that are playing since the 90s, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
And so like that's really cool, but it's also like I'm sure for them it's like wow, this was us, 10-20 years ago,
Yep.
this is how we were. And so that's really cool. So this is how this is all kind of, and then Punkerton came, our
Yeah.
record label, which
I
was
see
super
that.
cool.
Yep.
So when Art Theft was being kind of mastered, I remember talking to Nick. I'm like, I really want to get this pressed, but like we can't afford to
Yeah.
get it pressed.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, how would you feel about me just like reaching out to some of the labels and see what happens? And I was impressed because I don't just reach out. I have this whole story about this lonely detective that's looking for a record label, and he's trying to solve all these murders and blah blah blah. So I'm sure these record labels like, what the
What
hell
the
is
hell?
wrong with this band? But I was like, I'm gonna go with the detectives. Like, this is
Yeah.
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
let's play this out. So of course I get like a lot of them were like, hey, this is really good stuff, but right now we just have a full catalog or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is this is the big thing too, right? You make these steps, right? So you play with these bands, and then you're like, okay, now do I want to go the label route? So you're starting to look into that, but you're learning as you're doing it. So I didn't realize it didn't, especially with like labels, you got to wait. Like,
Yeah.
so you might sit on your album for 2 years, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 years. I
Yeah.
might be dead in 2 years. I'm a funeral director. I know how precious life is. So I was like, I want to release this right now,
Yeah.
but like, they would say like, and I'm sure it's like everything else, right? You got to pay your dues, you got to earn your wings. And I think too, probably a lot of the times, the first time they're going to say no, regardless, because they want to see A, if you're going to keep going, or B, what you have from this point on.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is too, is like everything with networking, right? With business is like, you're putting your foot in the door. Now they know you exist. They're going to slowly, if they're interested, they're going to keep listening. You know what I mean? So I know that's how that works. I'm sure they're listening right now. They're like, oh God, he knows the secret. Take him out. But so I got a lot of really good, hey, this is really cool. We really like this, but Punkerton right away. Not only did Brandon accept us, which was super cool, but he wrote back as like following the story.
Yeah.
So like he was like, I've been looking for this detective. Where is he at? Like I was told to meet him at this blah blah blah. So like we had this
so he played along. That's cool.
He played real long. We have like I'll find it. I have it saved somewhere. But like I was like, okay, not only is this guy rad, but like the whole Punkerton, it's because that was another thing Nick and I really loved was those old school labels, Fueled by Ramen and all the old ones that would keep these like family bands, right? But they were DIY, which was another thing too, was like you still do a lot of your own stuff. You just have somebody that's kind of looking over your shoulders, making sure like to help you get
distribute it, put it
distribute
there,
and promote really at the end of the day. But we do a pretty darn good job doing that ourselves. So I'm sure for Brandon, we're a pretty easy band to deal with. We're just fun, cool guys, but and ladies. But also like we do a lot of our own work too. We're getting our own shows and stuff. So we're not like, hey, you got to get us these shows, or you got to do this or that. Which is another thing too, because that's a learning experience to be on a label, and to have, because you're basically adding another member and in the scheme of things, because you gotta take care of him and he's got to take care of you, and you got to figure this like symbiotic relationship. under a contract, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing too, which is like, Nick and I are like, oh my gosh, like 2 years, which is not long at all. But at the same time, it's like we're signing off 2 years in an album, which that's another thing too. We've never done an LP like a full, because we got to do a full length. Like that's one of our. So we're excited about that. We actually have more than enough. That's coming down the line.
Yep. So
I'm sure
so how many songs is he after for an LP? 14?
So at least
For a
10.
full. Oh, at least
At
10.
least
Yep.
at least 10.
Yep.
Most of them are 12. You know what I mean? Around there. And then depending on, so the problem with us is just like every other punk band, right? One song of ours may be a minute long.
Yeah.
Whereas the next one is 3, so
Yeah.
we tend to write shorter songs. So I think the scheme of things was like 10 minutes or 32 minutes or 10 songs, something like that, whatever that equates to, or however that long that works. Basically it fills up a record at that point. But yeah, so we're excited about that. We'll be doing that later, or the early next year. We're gonna probably get back to you. But we just got done recording 5 songs just for fun stuff. I won't get too big into it, but be on the lookout for that too. It's funny because like Art Theft was just released in January
the 1st. Yep.
It feels like it was like 6 years ago at this point.
Oh wow.
That's what's wild to us, is like things have gone so fast in such a small time for us, and the excitement is just so big on like keep building stuff and keep playing stuff, and where it's the point where like, oh my gosh, like we already have stuff for a new album. Like wow, we didn't even think we'd have new stuff after Art Theft, and it just kind of comes to, and I gotta give Nick is our mastermind of writing. He'll come up with the basics of songs and lyrics. And then like I always tell people, like I'm like the traveling vacuum salesman. I'm just really good. My numbers are just really good every year. So they keep hiring me back. I trick these people into believing, what the story that I'm telling. And Nick has been working with me for 20 years. So I think slowly and incorporating, like he's incorporating me without knowing he's doing it. Like he knows he knows my range of vocals, and he understands his, and we do a really good job of blending. Because originally we wanted to do like a Tom and Mark kind of thing where it was like a 50-50 split.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then we realized, okay, you can't really be 50-50 if you're going to be a lead singer. You know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
It's just gonna
well, you can do the ska
I guess you
dance,
could. I guess you could skank. I guess you could skank the whole time, but. So we decided to do more of like a 60-40 kind of split, which has kind of worked out great. But when it comes to live, it's more like 70-80, 70-30 or 80-20. Nick tends to he just wants to play guitar. He wants to play guitar and just scream chants. That's what he wants to do. That's what he loved with Newfound Glory, and that's what he loves to do. So, which is really cool. So what's really cool about like meeting these, because that was the hard part too. The first time I met like Jay and stuff, I tell us on all this because like I'm meeting like somebody that I used to listen to on my anti-skip Walkman skating, inline skating in my parking lot at the funeral home. And so he'll be like, he'll look at me like, dude, like I'm just a normal guy. Like I'm just a normal guy that got lucky and has this albums and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but you're the face of ska punk for me, But what's really cool is having these conversations with these individuals that have been doing this for a very, very long time. And they saying like, you keep doing what you're doing. We like what you're doing. You're being like, he wrote a text message to his label saying the Boy Detective needs to be on this label. And he showed it to me.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I'm like, like that's like, even if that nothing equates to that, just that idea that he did that and he didn't have to do that is just impressive to me. So they've kind of taken us under their wings a little bit and taught us some things, but I think they also want us to experience this and make our own mistakes and kind of grow up. But so far so good. But Art Theft has been real fun.
It's quite funny because when I first heard Art Theft, I'm a huge ska fan. I've been listening to ska since the 90s. the poppy stuff like your Mad Caddies,
Real Big
your,
Fish kind of
your
stuff.
Les and Jake
Goldfinger.
and Golf, all that, and I've followed it along, and there's some bands that I've come across over the years, and I've gone, oh, where have you guys been, and then you guys popped up, and I was like, wow, this is insanely good. And I'm pretty sure I played one of your songs on one of my shows, because this is actually the first interview where I can't play any music on my podcast through Spotify, because Spotify used to have an app on their
Ah,
podcast that I can insert songs in between our chat. So whatever song we're talking about, I could insert that song so the listeners could actually hear what we're talking about. Um, so I can remember, and I used to do a show when it would just be me, and it'd be like a radio show, and I'd just
yeah.
talk and go, oh, I found this band here and this band here, and I remember when I come across Art Fest, I almost made it the featured album of the week,
Oh,
and the only reason why I didn't, I think, because I ended up getting a guest on, and it didn't happen.
uh,
It got left, and I'm glad it got left, because now I've got you on here. So I'd rather
yeah,
have
absolutely.
the band themselves than me put the
Gotta put the
album on
album up.
as. But when I first heard the first song, now how do you pronounce that first song? Come on, tell me.
Dracar Noir. Is
Yeah,
that the
that's the
one?
one. Yeah.
Hold on, let me pull it up here so I don't make a mockery of myself. Because I love Nick Good, but he tends to write so okay, so we'll explain this a little bit. So
Yep.
we
Okay.
both really liked like the old like Fall Out Boy titles and stuff,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Take Me
Yeah.
Back Sunday and stuff. So they had these really long, you know, album or track titles. The
Yeah.
problem is it makes it very confusing for the listener at
Yeah.
at
See,
times.
see, Benny, I'm still one of these guys, because I'm a '90s teenager, where the Walkman or the CD man at the time, you didn't know what songs were called. They were just had numbers. So
Yep.
so
Yep.
my brain today still does not read names of songs. I don't take notice of a name of a song. Like, I've been listening to NoFX for over 30 years, and I know the main songs, but I have no idea what probably
Yeah.
90% of their songs are.
But if they started it, you'd be able to sing it.
Oh yeah,
If they
definitely.
started the first line, you'd
Yep.
be able to. I get it. I
I would be
100%
one of
understand.
those guys in the crowd, and someone comes up and goes, name 3 songs that band, that shirt that you're wearing. Name 3 songs, and I'll be like, I have no idea, but I can sing you 3 songs.
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
I,
Yep. No, I can understand that, and I remember not only that, but it bugs me when somebody plays the songs out of line too of the album.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
like they'd be like,
See,
oh yeah, let me show you when they used to like mix albums.
yeah,
And you're like,
yeah,
no, that's not right. Your
yep,
brain is like
yep. And
exploding because you're like, this is linoleum supposed to be next. You
you know
know,
what?
or
I can't think where I was. I was somewhere, and that exact thing happened. I
oh,
started to sing something else, and I was like, "What? That's not right." Where was I? I can't
yep,
even think where I was now, and it was just completely,
yep. And
completely
there was a
backwards.
couple albums that we would get that were they were wrong in order. And
Yeah.
so for years when I would listen to that album after, I'm like, I don't like this at all. This is not the way that I listen to it. You know, because it's so weird. But
Yep.
like people don't realize, and this is going back to what I was saying, like people don't listen to full albums, which
Yep.
is sad because a lot of the time there's a lot of time and thought put into track order for a
Yep.
lot of bands.
And
So the second you take those out, it's just you've ruined it.
yep.
You've ruined the experience.
And I just had my co-host. He's just new to my show, and he messaged me tonight. Goes, how do you listen to so much music? And I just say, I just listen to albums, And
Yep.
it was like when I had good friends of yours on Middle Out.
Yep.
And I explained to them, I love just how their songs just flowed, like
Yep.
seamlessly between each song. Like you wouldn't even know that there was a change in song.
Yep. Yep.
And
It's an
and
experience.
it
It's like
is.
one big song.
It is, and it's perfect. And there's a band that I had on here called Fabled Mind from
Okay.
Denmark, and he's got a concept album, and it's all just one
Mhm.
song, and it's amazing. And to be able to line up your songs like that and to make it sound like that is It's
It
mind
takes
blowing, eh?
it's its own.
It's an
like,
art. It's an
It
art.
really is, and its own like learning style and stuff. But
Yeah.
so the first song is called "Some Dracar Noir Wearing Dexter with a Boner." That's the first track title song.
And I think
So
that's the
that's-
song that I played. I played way back.
Oh, I love it. I love the intro with the girl telling
Yeah.
you to take 20 minutes and all this. And
Yeah.
so art theft, I'm going to tell you this.
Yep.
So the reason why it's called art theft is in this 7 songs, there was like 38 nods to other bands.
Okay.
So that was another thing too. And I think this is why a lot of people can relate to our music. We specifically are not trying to hide the fact that we are not new at this.
Yeah.
Like we come from people who loved this late 90s, early 2000s punk rock. So we're just going to give you what you want to hear in our own way of doing it. And because that's the thing, right? You can't say that you created anything 100%.
No, definitely not.
You're copying something.
Yep.
So art theft. So the actual like art on the top is a famous painting that was stolen by the Nazis.
Yep.
And then it was never found again. So the idea of the original idea was we were going to buy it on canvas, like recreate it on canvas,
Okay. Yeah.
put it on our fridge next to like our kids' paintings and stuff, and put like magnets on it and coffee stains. And the idea is somehow this ska band got this original thing.
Has the original. That's hilarious.
That was stolen all these years ago. Because that was our thing. Like we are stealing and just reincorporating Goldfinger, Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, Suicide Machines, Descendants, Misfits, No Effects. We're just putting them all together and giving you what we think is the best parts of all those bands.
Yep.
And Nick does a wonderful job because you do feel like sometimes I listen to our stuff and I'm like, man, this sounds like something that would have been released in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yep. And
that's
like I don't know if you saw my Instagram post the other night. I posted Buck09 the other night because Date Night. I was listening to Date Night, and for some reason, Buck09 popped in my head.
Fresh out the shower, smelling better, and I comb my hair. I got my best Crocs on, and now I'm heading downstairs.
came on.
And I was just like, what does this remind me of Bach? And regardless of what, it's probably got nothing to do with it. There was something in that song that and then I went off and listened to Bach and the whole album.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's a win. That is
Yeah.
that is exactly what we want people to do.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think going back to playing with the older ska punk bands, I think that's why they really enjoy us, because it reminds them of what they were writing and what they still are writing.
Yeah.
Because as much as the newer Newtown sounds really cool and it's very different,
It is.
I think there is something to be said about going back and doing it. It's kind of like we're slapping that people that hated the third wave. You know what I mean? Like, third wave was funny and goofy and you guys exploited it and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, okay, fine. We're just going to give it right back.
Yeah,
just going to punk it right back to you. You got to slam it down your throat. So anyways, that was track 1, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And that starts with that Saves the Day intro that we basically art thefted. So, and then my favorite song on the album is Replacement. We literally have been doing Replacement since the beginning, and I'm glad that I guess now it's our top song, but I did not expect that. But it's that very doo-wop. So going back to my old school Misfits, Ramones stuff, I love how simple that song is.
Yep.
It's got a really cool story too. The one that really surprised me how good it came out and how it's been responded to is My God, You're Boring, the last song.
Because at the end there, you're reciting a bit of Blink and Alkaline
the
Trio.
Blink and the Alkaline going on.
Yeah.
It's that was really fun, and Nick and I have always liked doing that kind of stuff. Like we wanted to, when we did Scalarity, which was our cover album, basically of just Nick and I doing it.
Yeah.
We wanted to do a holiday. So we would take Green Day's Holiday, we would take Weezer's Holiday, and we took Get Up Kids Holiday and try to put it together
and try and do a mix.
But yeah, I'd call it Holiday. And just I love that idea, like the idea of like adding people's already art into it. And I wish there was an opportunity to be a fly on the wall and let like Alkaline Trio like sit down with that and Blink and see what they would respond to it. Hopefully they'd be like, God, this sucks. Why did they do that? Very punk rock, but at the same time, it'd be really cool if like, a little tear came to their eye, because like, if like, I can't imagine 20 years from now, somebody picking up and doing a Boy Detective cover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, these guys were big in the 2024.
Oh man, you'd be stoked,
What was that?
You'd be stoked if they did. You'd be like, oh my God.
I'd say take it. Like, even if they're like, hey, they should be paying you for royalties. Like, no, they don't need to pay me anything. Like, this is so cool. Like, have me come up and sing it with them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That would be the cool little ringer. But yeah, so but there's a lot of greats. Like I said, Dreadful Collection of Memoranda was one of the first songs I actually learned for Nick.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Laugh It Up, Funny Boys was cool. Really cool. That's kind of our nod to In This Diary, kind of like the Ataris kind of stuff, where it's talking about nostalgia and all that stuff. Date Night is legitimately just us trying to seduce our wives. That's literally that song.
Don't we all try and do that?
Trying to seduce our wives.
You got kids, there's no way anymore. You got to seduce them. That's the only way.
I love that's how real that song is. And I think all the dads that come out with their wives are like, oh my God, I've been there, done that. And it's just, it's funny. It's so funny. And then the sax is like the sex part. It's like, okay, it finally worked out. She finally said yes. And then you have this sax solo. That's just wonderful. The Secret Life and Tragic Death of Richard T. Owls is amazing, because that was one of the song titles that I finally had. I got to pick that one.
Oh, you got it. You actually got one. You actually got to choose.
I got one, and I give Nick like 10 an album, and he always hates them. No, you don't get it, Ben. You don't get this idea, blah, blah. Well, that one, I think I annoyed him so much. He's like, okay, I'm just going to give him one. I'm going to give him one for each of these albums so he could stop bothering me. So that was a fun song. And then I think That's it. See, that's a
That's
beauty
it,
too.
7.
And what I
Yeah.
loved about our album is you can listen to it driving somewhere and you get
Yeah.
through it all.
Yeah.
You don't have to like, oh god, now I gotta wait another half an hour. I guess the ride home, maybe I'll finish it.
Yeah.
But that's that's been the tough part about writing this full length, because for us it's like, okay, this is new territory for us.
Yeah.
Like, because we've never gone over 7 songs.
Yeah.
Not to mention there was a learning curve too with horns, A, and then B, having a female in the band, because there is stuff that comes across occasionally where you have to kind of like rethink things, and not, because it's like the bands can be just like marriages, and bands can be just like locker rooms too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a certain thing that we talk about, and what we didn't realize is you can still do that. And actually hiding it sometimes makes it worse, because
Yeah.
then it's like it's obvious that you're like, we would normally talk about this, but now we can't talk about this because there's a girl here, you know?
Yeah.
But then like we realize we're all very supportive, very none of us have any prejudice towards anything that has to do with any of that.
Yeah.
So
okay,
like
yeah.
it's been a wonderful experience, because nobody is very patriarchal or anything to that extent. And I think like I'm sure it's a learning curve for her too, like being in a band with a bunch of dudes.
Has she ever been in a ska band before?
She's never, I don't, in my experience, she's never been in a band before.
Oh, wow.
So she learned bari sax in high school and kind of kept up with it, but she never was in a band by any means, form, or shape. So this is new to her. This whole experience is,
she'll be loving it.
She came in at a wonderful time, because that was when we were starting to get some decent shows and we were starting to get some notoriety. It's kind of cool going into a place now and being known as the Boy Detective, which is kind of interesting. Like the entity of like, you are a part of something. You're not just, because like some people could get mad, like, no, my name's Benny and this is me. But I know that I'm representing something bigger by being a collective Boy Detective.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing too. Like I got to start realizing too that like there's a responsibility to your fans when you're out and about too, which is another interesting, when people are like, oh my God, you're in the Boy Detective. And I'm like, because I'm, parking cars for a funeral and somebody will say something, they'll come out with their blue or green hair and be like, man, I just saw you play last Tuesday. And I'm like, wow, like never thought these worlds would collide, but they do.
Yep.
So
where did the name come from? The boy detective. Was that
the name?
Yeah.
So the name is from a book. So Nick and I are both readers.
Yep.
We have our own little book club that we talked about. We both are big Stephen King fans too. And so there's a book called The Boy Detective Fails. And if you look at the cover, we literally art thefted the cover art and made it in our own shirt. But it's this is a wonderful story by Joe Mano, and he's a author out in Chicago, I think. And funny part, I wrote him too, because I was like, hey, I just want you to know there is a ska punk band because of your book, and never got anything back. But that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Someday he'll come across it.
He'll probably because what's a ska punk band?
But Ron sings. He writes his own songs.
Something about being a loser? Some of them.
Every time you go away,
He's probably like, ugh, wasn't that supposed to be dead in the 90s?
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't realize too, a lot of people don't know what ska is in general.
Yeah,
But
well, a lot don't.
and because I grew up in the music scene, so
Yeah.
I knew what thrash metal was. I knew what metal was. Even out of my group, I know what folk is. I know what, I knew all these things just because I was in the music scene. But then, like, they're like, "What's ska?" I'm like, "It's punk rock with horns." Just
Yeah.
that's how you need to
That's
know.
the easiest way to say
That's
that.
what we're doing is pop punk with horns.
Yeah.
But so it's literally a title of a book. It's called The Boy Detective Fails, and we just took fails out and just called it The Boy Detective.
Yeah, wow.
So that's how we came up with the name of our band.
Yep.
That
Awesome.
simple.
The
Wonderful book if anybody wants to read it. It's really
I see. The problem is I'm not a reader. I
get it.
I can't read a book. I'm terrible. I wish I could. My kids have read more books than me in their small little lives than I ever have.
I hated it when I was growing up because I was forced to read.
Yeah,
but the second I wasn't forced to read, love it.
Yeah. I haven't got that concentration, and I've tried.
Yep.
I've definitely tried over the years, and I'm just like, nah. And it was even like when FX released that album, their book. I was like, oh, I really want to read that. I don't know if I
Yeah.
could. I'd love to try, but then I ended up getting on the what is it, the ebooks, and sat there and listened to it.
Just go on those audiobooks.
Yeah, and I
have
sat there and
somebody read it
listened to it while I was in hospital with my daughter. I was like, oh yeah, this is good. I just lying there doing nothing because I had to look after her. I'm like, oh, this is easier than reading. I've got Fat Mike and smelling that, telling me stories.
Yeah. I can understand that. I can appreciate that too. And coming from a line of ADHDs in my family and all that, and our dad was dyslexic or is dyslexic,
Okay.
so like we had to deal with all that kind of. I'm sure we all have a little bit in our brains of us kids.
Yeah. I just do want to touch briefly on your podcast. I did come across it the other day. Let's talk about death with Benny and Dr. Nick.
Yes.
How's that going? So that's your twin brother, isn't it?
Yeah, so I have an identical twin brother. His
Yep.
name is Nick. We've been playing music forever. Part of my the way that I sing and the way that I skank and the way that I am is because of him. So I shout out to Chris and Nick for helping me with my music.
Yeah.
And they're very, very supportive of what I'm doing. So we decided he specializes in grief and loss, and obviously I'm a funeral director / death doula. So we decided that most people don't talk about grief, especially in America. America's really bad about talking about death.
Yeah.
So what we did was we wanted to do it in a way because we would listen to all these for our education. Listen to all these very intelligent people talk about grief and loss, but the problem is it's very boring.
Yep.
So for the normal listener nowadays, specifically, they need to be entertained. Yep. You need to be distracted. You need to be entertained. So what we wanted to do was talk about these big concepts and thoughts, but do it in a way that's lighthearted and has some humor. Because what we found is when I would go to, convention or whatever and have a speaker, if they were entertaining and they were funny, I was getting a lot more from the conversation than, okay, here's my slideshow, which is like, okay, just give me a slideshow at that point. Like, I don't need you to go through each of these slides. You're not adding anything.
Yeah.
But then I'd have these people that were the very humanistic, where which be like, okay, this sounds like garbage, or sorry, I just let the room down, So, and I was like, oh, I love that. I love that idea. And in funerals too, because I do so many funerals, the best eulogies are the ones where the person makes everybody laugh.
Yeah.
Because the thing is like, if you can make people laugh at a funeral, it really decompresses the stress and anxiety that's in the room. And there's usually a goofball in every family that's like, do I say this joke now? Is this too dark? And like us funeral directors and death workers are very, very morbid humor because we have to, because if we don't, we would literally just be encased by all this grief. So we did that. We started that in COVID too, and that has just blossomed. Like, we're being asked to talk at places. So it's funny because like I'm basically touring through the death podcast and also touring through the Boy Detective situation, and it's been wonderful. And what I've learned about life just in general, if you have more you have your feet in more doors. You start doing more. You're opening yourself for so much more. Because the thing is too, that I always bring up The Boy Detective when I'm talking about death. And then there's a lot of people that is like, oh my God, I love music. What's your band? Where do I go? So it honestly just helps both. And then there's people, I literally put out stickers at our shows for Let's Talk About Death. There's people that just grab them and they're listening to our show. So you just never know and I have the honor of being on two boards, two nonprofits, one specifically I'm president of, which is 6 Feet Over and Gabby's Grief Center. And I have a responsibility, especially when it comes to suicide and mental health, to give as much information as I can and be present when somebody needs to talk, because nobody understands somebody's grief and heartache. And the problem is most people either A, shut down when somebody brings up something like suicide, or B, says the complete wrong things to say to somebody who's dealing with that, or just try to put them away for 24 hours. And that's not what they need. They need somebody who is there and is present. So anyways, sorry I dipped down the podcast there for a little
no, it was good. It was good because I actually, the one that I did listen to was the neurodivergent grief. And I could relate 100% to that. Because I've got a daughter who's on the spectrum, we could say. And she doesn't quite get it. Like we had a cat pass away. And there's no, I mean, it's small, but for her there's no there's nothing. There's nothing. It's weird. She doesn't understand death, sort of thing.
And that's okay. And that's okay. But that's hard for you as a parent to be like, but what if she deals with this 10 years down the line? Like, what if it finally hits her? And it's like, that's the other thing about parents, right? We overthink and overanalyze what our kids are going to do. And the thing is, this is like, let her tell you her experience. And my twin is trying to teach me all that when it comes to like the actual like psychology behind it, because it's not necessarily that they don't get it. It's just to them, like, it's black and white. Like, okay, they're dead. Move on. Exactly. And the popular thing about your podcast, that episode, was like, I was like, how's she going to think when I pass away? You know, what's that going to be like? What's that? You know, is that like the same? So, that's a whole existential crisis right there. Is like, because like a lot of us, we die for the memory that we leave behind, right? That's our legacy. So if that doesn't exist, do I even exist at that point? Is that kind of where you're at? Oh, sorry, Sean. There you go. Your mind just blown right now. Thank you for bringing that up.
Stop it. Yeah. Thanks, Penny. Thanks, mate.
The worst part about being young
No, but
You're welcome.
but it was. I actually really enjoyed that. I had to quick listen. I was like, man, this is I can relate to this. It was really really good.
Mm, mhm.
Hey, so what's plans? What's plans? What have you got tours booked for this
So
year?
we do have some cool things coming up. So for us, it's very hard to tour. First of all, we just added another trumpet, so we have eight now, eight
Yeah,
members.
well,
Another
you can't all
girl.
fit in the car.
It's we can, but we have to rent it because we have to get like one of those like 12 seaters
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
for which is wild. Never thought I'd be in a band with, I was always in a band with 3 or 4 members, so
Yeah.
this 8 thing is kind of fun. So we do have a lot of things coming up. We are literally playing with Safe Fairs at the end of the week. I don't know when the
Yeah.
show drops. When does the show drop, Sean?
It'd be probably 2 or 3 weeks away yet. So
Okay.
yeah.
So at this
Yeah.
point, we've already played with Safe Fair. So we got a Safe Fairs. August is
Yep.
a big month for us. We have a lot of shows. We're playing Crispy Fest, and that has like the Mephistopheles and Coffin Cats and all that. So that'll be super cool.
Yep.
We have a local show called Splish Splash, which is all of us like local ska punk bands are playing together, which is
Yeah, cool.
rad.
And
And it's
people-
at somebody's backyard by their pool. So that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's even better.
I love that. I miss that. I miss the old basement shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. We got Mustard Plug coming up in August.
That'll
too.
be
We're
huge,
opening
man.
for them in
That'd be
Toledo.
so fun.
And then what else do we got? We got so much going on. We're going to hit the road with Five Iron Frenzy for Columbus and a Chicago show. So that's really cool for us.
Yep.
And then, oh my gosh, we have more, but we're trying to get on some more Mad Caddies. Haven't 100% said if we're going to open for them in Detroit yet. So that'll be cool.
Yep.
Millington's coming around. We're trying
Yeah,
to
Millington.
hop on.
I actually don't mind those guys. They're actually pretty cool as well.
Yeah, they got some really cool stuff. So I reached out to them. I'm hoping to get in there.
Yep.
Hopefully, possibly, if there's the big shows here in Detroit are like Black Christmas. That's a big one that a lot of the punk bands play.
Yeah,
So
okay.
if they have it this year, I'm hoping that the Boy Detective get on it.
Yeah, sweet.
So at this point, it's just kind of, and then we have the bigger stuff that's coming out is we just recorded 5 songs.
Nice.
One is a holiday song, so be ready for that one. That'll be a lot of fun. I miss like bands doing holiday stuff.
Yeah.
They still do, but it's not as it was like Xmas and I Won't Be Home for Christmas. Like those 2 songs from Blink and Newfound like are still on my playlist every year.
Yeah.
So we got a holiday song. We have 3 songs that are hoping to either go on a Punkerton LP possibly, or a split, or not a split, a 7-inch.
Okay.
And then we did record with some guests. I'll just put it that way, and we're hoping that makes a split, a 1-and-1 split down the line. So those are coming up sooner than later. We are releasing Art Theft and Band. But the cool thing about Band is it's going to be a little bit different. It's actually going to have real horns on it.
Yep.
So you're actually getting a new version of Band with horns if you get the record. So be on the lookout for that. That's coming out very soon, probably end of summer, early fall.
Yeah.
And then we go in the studio, I think in February or March to record the new album. So that's going to be 10 to 12 songs, depending on what we end up doing.
Yeah.
Maybe even 13, maybe lucky 13, who knows?
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. So I think, and then we're trying to do a video. We're trying to get
it's hard
to do a video. We just need one. I know it's not as needed as it used to be, but I think.
But look, at Middle Out, they had a video for every bloody single they did.
They did wonderful. They have 2. I think they have 2 or 3 now, and it's one of their wives that do it.
Yeah.
That does all the filming, and so she already said she would do it for us. So actually, that's what
sweet.
she said that.
I did see you singing.
Rad.
I did see you singing with them the other day.
Oh, I love Middle Out.
I saw you on the stage. Yeah, that was sick.
It's so cool to be part of a label where one of the bands is local and they're rad. They're rad dudes.
Yeah, really nice guys.
we're gonna have a Punkerton show here. I think it's October with a bunch of us. I think there's 4 of us Punkerton bands that are gonna be playing together, which is rad.
Yep.
And Middle Out has just been absolutely wonderful. They've been very supportive. They come out to our shows. We try to get to theirs as much as possible, and they're just really cool dudes. And that's the beauty of the Boy Detective, because we flirt with pop punk, because we flirt with hardcore, because we flirt with emo. We can fit in any show.
Yeah.
We played with D Block. We played a hardcore show, and it was absolutely wonderful. In fact,
wow.
all the hardcore kids didn't know what to do with us.
Yeah.
So they were fist pounding. Of course, they were stage diving and all that. And then we play, and they gave us all the space in the world, because they're we don't know what to do. Can we hit somebody with horns? Are we allowed to? And I'm just going down in the pit, and just because that's my shtick. I am never on stage. I'm always on the floor, because I felt like when I was younger, I always liked bands that did that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm any more important than anybody that comes to my show. So if I'm going to be slinging the stuff at you, I think you deserve to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And
that'd be cool.
And that's entertaining. And it's entertainable. So, but yeah, when we played that hardcore show, it was funny, because they would come up and be like, we didn't know what to do. And I'm like, it's fine. Do what you normally do.
Yeah.
It's just horns, buddy.
Yeah.
And we did a couple of our hardcore, because we got more hardcore stuff coming up. We got a lot of breakdowns that are coming up in a lot of the songs that we're releasing. Cool. And we always like the Goldfinger SMP, which is one of their old hardcore songs that they did. Skiers Must Perish, which is silly and awesome.
Yeah.
So anyways, we do got a lot of stuff coming up, new merch, new thoughts. But I think the future is very bright.
Wow.
Right now.
Yeah.
Oh, also, we are doing, I don't know if the competition still exists at this point, but we're on America's Next Top Hit Maker, which is Rolling Stones competition. And if you can come on and vote for us, it'd be wonderful.
We're about to vote for that.
You can go to our Facebook or Instagram or anything, and you'll find the link for it, because we're releasing it every day. That's another thing too. You can listen to us on any platform. So if you're Apple or Spotify or Bandcamp or any of those, you can find us on there. We also have a link tree. So if that's the easiest way to do it, just go to Linktree, look up.
I just worked out that last night, how to do Linktree.
It's perfect. We'll get a little more as the days get on, but as of now, you can find us. If you're looking for us, you can find us anywhere. As for Let's Talk About Death, the same thing. You could literally go to Let's Talk About Death podcast.com, and that'll take you, and you can listen to everything from there. You don't even have to have Spotify or so keep a lookout. There's a lot of stuff coming from us.
Benny, this has been great. I just love the way that you can just tell the story without even me. I've got this list of questions here, and you just went through them without even me saying anything. And I absolutely loved the way you brought it. And I was just I was mesmerized, you're probably sitting here. I'm just like this going.
No, that's a problem being another podcaster.
Yeah,
and I always apologize to everybody.
Perfect.
I tend to step up and just kind of
love it.
And I've always done better with just on the fly. I don't like having notes or stuff.
No, I've only got down a couple of notes, name, other bands that you mentioned, basic stuff, and you just pretty much just pin them all off. Loved it. But on my show, Ben, we have to go out with one question. And that is, what is your favorite bakery product? If you were to walk into a bakery today, what would your go-to product be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably bear claw.
A what?
A bear claw?
What the hell's a bear claw?
It's like a donut.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
I'm thinking it's like a big
it looks. I don't know if it even looks like it, but that's what it is. It's like a donut pastry kind of thing. It's called a bear claw.
Okay, so what's in it? Is it plain, or has it got custard, or is it?
I think it's got cinnamon and some sort of glaze on it too. But check it out. It's bear claw. They rule.
Never heard of it. I might have to look that one up.
Or a good pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie. Wow. See, most of you Northern Hemisphere people go croissant. And I'm just
Yep,
like,
yep.
yeah, you know, most of the people I've talked to have just gone, yeah, I just love a croissant. I'm like, yeah, that's what everyone says up there. But a pumpkin pie, is that in a short? Is that in a short pastry or a puff pastry?
That it could be anything, but I just like the pie itself, like just the pie crust and pumpkin
Filling.
Yeah, it's so good.
Wow.
I'm a Scorpio, so I was my birthday is October 24th, so I'm a Halloween baby.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
for me, like anything that's autumn related, apple pie, anything like that, like is very like up my alley.
Yeah.
So
fantastic. Hey Ben, as I said, this has been fantastic. You've been just amazing. For the listeners, Boy Detective Art Theft, got to go and have a listen. It's been my top Scar album of the year so far.
thank you.
It's been fantastic. But yeah, this has been the Baker's Punk Podcast, and Benny, thanks for coming along for a chat.
Thank you.
I'm not saying